The Dallas Cowboys are a marvel of consistency. For 10 of the past 11 years, they've made the playoffs, and 3 times their season ended in the Super Bowl. Each year, a transfusion of new players and new strategies makes their blood boil for yet another championship hunt. And like all hunters, Tom Landry relishes the chase more than the capture.
Well, I don't think I would enjoy my profession if I knew I was always a winner. I think it's really the chase that's important. It's the challenge that you're after, much more than the winning. I think the greatest thing that competitive athletics does for anyone is it teaches him how to meet defeat, not how to meet victory. Because I think that only through defeat is character built. And I think this is the greatest thing that competitive sports do for any youngster or any man. And as I've gone through the game of football through the years, I've been able to cope with the defeats and learn how to overcome them, to endure to the point that you can come back the next time and compete harder.
One would assume that after 17 years of continuous service, Tom Landry's philosophies would ossify like dinosaur bones. Instead, the dean of NFL head coaches remains the most creative strategist in the game.
It looks like confusion to anybody who doesn't know much about the game, because it looks like it's just 11 men attacking each other at one time. But as you learn the game, it becomes very scientific, especially in professional football. It becomes very intriguing and exciting.
Hard leadership is provided by Landry and quarterback Roger Staubach, the conductor through which all the lightning pass.
I'm aggressive to a degree. As a quarterback, you got to keep your poise. You can't get overly emotional because you've got a lot on your mind. You've got to do a lot of things mentally to control the game. But I get very competitive, and where you can't be particularly a nice guy in the field because the aspect of the game and the type of game it is. You've got to be competitive, aggressive, and give everything you have physically. It's just hard to put your hand on exactly why he makes the big plays, but he does. And there's certain athletes that do it, and Drew Pearson's one of them.
3, clutch, a receiver named Drew Pearson.
No one can accuse the New Orleans Saints of merely rolling over and playing dead without putting up a struggle. And struggle is exactly what they did against Dallas' devastating doomsday defense led by number 54, Randy White. The Cowboys' attack, led by Roger Staubach and powered by emerging star Scott Laidlaw and tight end Billy Joe Dupree, number 89, was every bit as physical as the Dallas defense. The Cowboys rolled up over 400 yards and averaged more than 6.5 yards each time they touched the ball against the defenseless Saints. Passing from a new variation of the shotgun, Jolly Roger hit on 15 of 22 as everything went right for Dallas in their 24-6 romp in the Superdome. In Dallas, Burt Jones and the high-scoring Colts did not have such an easy time of it. During the past year or so, Burt Jones has been one of the NFL's hottest quarterbacks. But last Sunday, the Dallas Cowboys found a way to cool him off, at least temporarily. But every time it seemed that the rifle could not fire another shot, back would come Burt, and the Colts would be at it again. Despite numerous injuries, Jones loves to challenge a defense directly, and this makes him doubly dangerous, as long as he remains reasonably healthy. Roger Staubach, on the other hand, has learned that it is easier to trick people than it is to run over them. Wide receiver Drew Pearson's pass to wide receiver Golden Richards was the first touchdown for Dallas on a day when the Cowboys had to come from behind 4 different times. And if you have to come from behind, these receivers are not a bad group to aim for. They are, in fact, three of the prime reasons that Roger Staubach is off to a faster start than any other NFL passer. Against Baltimore, Staubach completed 22 of 28 for 339 yards, including this one to perfectly positioned Billy Joe Dupree for the touchdown which put Dallas ahead 27-24. But Baltimore tied the score with just 28 seconds to play. And there were only 12 seconds left when Staubach launched this pass for his favorite clutch receiver, Drew Pearson. As number one, place kicker Efren Herrera said later, Drew Pearson made it easy for me with that catch on the 14. I was ready to kick one 50 yards to win it. But either way, I'm happy. In the Seattle Kingdome, the Dallas Cowboys met an ambush. Seahawk coach Jack Patera was one of the original Cowboys, and quarterback Jim Zorn was cut by the Cowboys just last year. Together, they devised the plan which had Seattle ahead 13-0 in the second quarter. But although the Seahawks were a shocking second in the conference in passing, they were dead last in defense. And accordingly, Roger Staubach was not afraid to fire the Landry shotgun. Staubach, the NFC's leading passer, brought the Cowboys back with more than 400 yards of offense to add to their already league-leading total. This touchdown by Charles Young gave the Cowboys the lead just before halftime. In the second half, Staubach controlled the game. Stumpy running back Robert Newhouse stumped the Seahawks with 120 yards and this clinching touchdown run as the Cowboys became the only undefeated and untied team in the NFL. If they are to have a chance against the undefeated Dallas Cowboys this week. Last Sunday, the Cowboys spoiled New York's premier performance in their brand new Giant Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. New York quarterback Craig Morton was hit with everything but champagne and confetti as the Dallas defense stormed his passing pocket and sacked him 5 times. If Morton had been given more time, he might have been able to duplicate this completion to Jimmy Robinson, number 85. Although the Giants showed occasional signs of life, they were never really in the game as the Cowboys barged to a 17-0 lead in the second quarter. Robert Newhouse and Doug Dennison, number 21, tallied touchdowns, and Roger Staubach teamed with Drew Pearson for another. So far this season, Staubach has completed 74% of his passes, and he leads the NFL in yards gained passing. As for the Cowboys, they're the only unbeaten and untied team in pro football. One guy you never stick your tongue out at is Dallas quarterback Roger Staubach, whose tidy set of statistics has buried 5 straight opponents. Against the St. Louis Cardinals, Staubach and tight end Billy Joe Dupree meshed so perfectly it appeared the Cowboys were running skeleton drills on the practice field. However, the Cardinals were not unduly worried, for if Dallas has the faculty for producing the home run play, they also historically have the facility for allowing them. The Cowboys' deep defense was said to be soft, and Mel Gray, number 85, turned it into jello. In wide receiver Gray and setback Terry Metcalf, number 21, St. Louis has a 1-2 punch unrivaled in pro football. It was Metcalf's ability to evaporate into the secondary and behind Cowboy linebackers that produced a 14-10 lead for the Cardinals. Ultimately, the difference in the game was the Cowboys' failure to cash in on this opportunity created by Charlie Waters, number 41. Instead of reaping a touchdown, or at the very least a field goal, Dallas came up dry, while St. Louis engineered a 98-yard drive that ended in a lady luck touchdown by Gray. Gray rubbed a spike into Dallas' wounds and seemed to put some ginger in their offense. Operating behind the shotgun, Staubach spit out a final touchdown to Drew Pearson. Even though they managed to make the Cardinals bleed a little at the end, it was the Cowboys who died with their cleats on and lost their first game 21-17. One runner whose fortunes were not on the wane was wondrous Walter Payton of the Bears. With over 700 yards rushing, number 34 tried to become the first man to catapult out of Texas Stadium. Held to 41 yards, Payton was hamstrung by the doomsday defense that cut off his escape routes and made him circumnavigate the field like Magellan on an uncharted course. Without Walter to worry about, Dallas looked around for a stationary target and drove a quiver full of hits into quarterback Bob Avellini, number 7. On the day, the Bears managed but 100 yards passing and running, while Roger Staubach orchestrated the many soloists in the NFL's number 1 offense. While Staubach rarely offers up his body to defenses anymore, he is still a high-risk quarterback. Someone who will trade a bruise for a touchdown. Staubach suffered a fractured finger in the second half, and for the next 2 weeks, the complicated Cowboy offense will be directed by rookie Danny White, who almost turned a surefire win into defeat. White's indiscretions generated most of Chicago's points when an interception by Ross Brubaker ended in a touchdown by Mike Hartenstein, number 73. For 3 years, White was the trigger man for Frank Cush's pro-style attack at Arizona State, a place where quarterbacks who can't throw 60-yard bombs are converted into tight ends to toughen them up. Luckily for White, he is surrounded by a talented core of specialists like Preston Pearson, number 26, who know their way around a pass pattern and are invaluable in the clutch. The Cowboys have a pair of backs who run and another pair who catch. Preston Pearson is a catcher, and his 2 touchdowns helped Dallas stay atop the NFC East at the halfway point, 31-21. Showing little effect of a broken finger on his right hand, Roger Staubach chose to build the Cowboy attack around a stream of medium passes to backs like Preston Pearson, number 26. These completions, coupled with a steady grind-'em-out ground game, moved the Cowboys in for 2 short scores and secured for Dallas first place in the NFC East. Though seldom in it, Washington did manage 1 score on a Joe Theismann to Roy Jefferson connection. Most of this Halloween night, however, Redskin quarterbacks found doomsday more frightening than a jack-o'-lantern as the Dallas defenders tricked them into retreat, then treated them to some bruises. Dallas claimed victory 20-7 by placing a swift and sudden halt to Redskin passers and runners alike.
New York Giants, Harvey took an inside route to pulverize Craig Morton and preserve a last-second victory. Special team members fly by the seat of their pants. It takes daredevils like return specialist Butch Johnson, number 86, and other young stars such as Saldi, Jensen, Hegman, Rafferty, Edson, Hughes, Reese, and Shawn. One word: sweet.
In Atlanta, Roger Staubach's crooked pinky was not the only thing bent out of shape for the flat and still deflating Dallas Cowboys. Dallas' game plan was to resuscitate their vanishing ground game, a vital element in the Cowboys' complex and ornamental yet wonderfully conceived offense. For 3 quarters, things worked out marvelously as Dallas ran well, built a 10-0 lead, and always seemed on the verge of blowing out the Falcons. For 50 minutes, the Doomsday defense, led by Ed Too Tall Jones, number 72, did not allow Atlanta to penetrate their 40-yard line. But suddenly, the Cowboys' offense self-destructed, and the disaster they had flirted with in recent weeks could not be avoided. In a 5-minute stretch in the final period, Dallas committed almost more errors than they had for the entire season, and Atlanta eventually turned every mistake into points. Mike Esposito, number 26, a seldom-used running back, keyed the upset with a 35-yard touchdown burst as they beat the Cowboys on one of those any given Sundays, 17-10. In view of the previous Thursday's events in Irving, Texas, where a Turkey Day crowd of 62,000 plus watched the Cowboys feast on another brand of bird. Dallas devoured the Cardinal attack, dominating all phases of play, especially the punting game. The Cowboys splintered the Cardinals' protective wall, blocked this punt, and notched 2 points. Special team superstar Thomas Henderson, number 56, breathed fire into Dallas's specialty units. A Super Bowl contender like the Cowboys depends upon inspired special team play to keep their winning edge. Last Sunday, the Cowboys turned in 2 crucial plays in punting situations. Danny White's fourth down pass to Benny Barnes came with but a minute to play in the first half. 4 plays later, Roger Staubach made it hurt. Dallas's 2 fourth-down successes proved to be the pivotal plays in the contest. They accounted for 9 of the 12 points that Dallas led by late in period 4, before the cardiac Cardinals turned on their pacemakers. But for the second week in succession, St. Louis's last-minute heroics did not a victory bring. The game ended with St. Louis on the Cowboy 8-yard line. 8 yards that may cost the Cardinals a playoff berth. The season is harder to accomplish than punching your way out of a paper bag. Facing the talent-laden Dallas Cowboys, the Eagles, and in particular Bill Berkey, number 66, tried to intimidate Drew Pearson, number 88, the NFC's leading wide receiver. The Eagles, who have not scored more than 2 touchdowns in any one game, scored 1 against Dallas when Roman Gabriel found number 85, Charlie Smith, unattended in the end zone. For the first time in weeks, Roger Staubach was able to mix in some runs with the passing that has been the staple of the Cowboy attack. The balance in their arsenal was provided by number 44, Robert Newhouse, whose prolonged absence this season has cost the Cowboys a potential 1,000-yard runner. Before Newhouse nursed himself back to health, Dallas relied on the doomsday defense and the spectacular play of their special teams. This blocked punt by rookie Aaron Kyle was the unit's 3rd snuff of the season and the 2nd consecutive game in which they registered a safety. Young players naturally use special teams as a stepping stone to starting as a regular. One such man is rookie Butch Johnson, number 86, who was a 3rd-string receiver on the depth chart when training camp began. Johnson's touchdown nailed down a 26-7 victory, and more importantly, the title in the NFC East for the Dallas Cowboys. While Dallas gained a playoff berth for the 10th time in 11 years, the grizzled old Washington Redskins were still in the fight for the wild card. The wide open spaces of Texas became the proving grounds for Western Division representative Los Angeles. After last year's humiliating 37-7 playoff defeat at the hands of Dallas, the Rams came roaring into Texas Stadium with revenge very much on their minds. Their major goal was to contain Cowboy quarterback Roger Staubach, and did they ever. The fierce rush led by number 85, Jack Youngblood, was a major problem for Dallas all day. It jammed up the run, overwhelmed blockers, and forced interceptions, like this one from linebacker Isaiah Robertson, number 58. But the Rams hardly held a defensive monopoly. Dallas pulled off some sparkling heists of their own, and number 41, Charlie Waters, seemed like he was in on every one of them. Twice, Dallas had eliminated the Rams from the playoffs, and the Angelinos were well aware of that fact. Once the game settled into the pattern of defense, the hits got harder, and the tempers grew shorter. Late in period 1, Rookie quarterback Pat Hayden got the Rams moving with a toss to Harold Jackson, number 29. Hayden had been a surprise starter, having damaged his knee the week before. But the Rhodes Scholar showed no ill effects and much Oxford guile when his touchdown run put the Rams ahead 7-3. Hayden had good reason to smile after the score. The way the Ram defense was playing, it looked like one touchdown might be enough to win. But that kind of thinking was altered quickly when the Rams punted and Charlie Waters made his presence felt. After the recovery, Staubach moved Dallas with surprising ease and capped the 8-play drive with Scott Laidlaw's touchdown, just to make sure Laidlaw, number 35, took it in twice. Then in the fourth quarter, the Rams found themselves in the same situation. They scored too, but this time it wasn't so easy to tell. Despite a consensus from the officials, the Cowboys still weren't convinced that LA had retaken the lead. Using a most elegant, prosaic style, Dallas pleaded their case, but it didn't seem to do much good. Dallas's powers of persuasion were far better illustrated when action, not words, were used, such as Charlie Waters' second block punt with less than 2 minutes remaining. Down by 4 points, the Cowboys had to score a touchdown for a win. On 4th and 10, Staubach hit number 89, tight end Billy Joe Dupree. But a crunching belt from the Rams defenders brought a summons for the chain gang. When the verdict came in, there was dancing on Hollywood Boulevard, but no joy in Irving, Texas. By inches, the Cowboys had been stopped, and now Los Angeles was closer to victory than any time all day. If they could hang on, it would be the first time a Ram team had ever won a playoff battle on the road. But Dallas held one last time and forced LA to punt. Rather than meet up with Waters again, kicker Rusty Jackson ran out the final seconds, allowing a meaningless safety. The 14-12 decision dethroned NFC champ Dallas, who will now have to watch the Super Bowl on television. But the same fate awaits the Rams too, unless they can whip rugged Minnesota this week for the conference crown.